3SFX presents the Indoob podcast with your host, T. Sterling Watson.
Good morning, Indoobians. I'm T. Sterling Watson.
And I'm Kortney.
This is the Indoob podcast, where drive time meets late night talk show, as we aim to entertain, enlighten, and provide an auditory escape with knowledge and nonsense. Got a little tongue-tied there. Thank you for stopping by and pressing play. We're recording live from somewhere in, I guess, this universe. Well, we're here to talk about Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, the hit film from actually last year that is making waves this year, the Oscars and everything, everywhere, all at once, all the time. Kortney, how are you doing?
I am fabulous. I'm even better now that I've seen this movie not once, but twice.
I know. I was like so excited. First of all, I was excited when you said you were first watching it, like at all. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh my God. And I was just, I was giddy with nerdgasms and everything. And I'm like, okay, I can't wait. And I'm so glad that you did what you did, which was basically text me throughout and then kind of reliving through you or through your text what you were feeling, the emotions, the tears. Well, we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly by now, if you haven't seen it yet, you're going to get spoilers throughout. That's the majority of what this episode is about. We're also going to talk about Tenant, which is another heady, trippy movie, which we'll get into because I know you had thoughts, and also Daniel had thoughts. But then again, also thoughts. Ashley had thoughts. Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to hear her thoughts as well.
Well, Ashley, she didn't have thoughts on Tenant, at least not that she can probably remember, because we didn't go back and rewatch it like I was hoping we would. We ended up watching, last night we watched You People, which is new on Netflix. It wasn't bad. It was funny. And then it got like, not as funny, because I mean, it's basically a rom-com and a retelling of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. So.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure what that one was about, but that is right up my alley.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. Like, I will say, don't listen to, and I mean, I've been doing this more and more often. The further away I am from regular Twitter, the more enjoyable life seems to be, because everyone would like to kind of, hate on things. Like, this is wrong for this reason. I'm like, I want to enjoy something, please.
Yeah.
But we're not here to discuss that movie today. So because it's still fresh on your mind, like you just watched it twice. What were like and this is a really loaded question, but your initial reaction when you ended it the first time?
It was like, so the movie is a roller coaster, right? So it starts chaotically and it continues to be chaotic and it ends chaotically. But in between all of the chaos, there's like comedy and there's drama and there's like relatability and there's, what did you say?
I said absurdity at some points.
Oh, so much absurdity, like to the point where it's like, oh, you had me, and then this, what is going on? And then they bring it all together, and it works. Like, I've started to deep dive on it, and I've read like several reviews, and one review poignantly said, there were so many ways that this movie could have gone wrong, but it didn't. Like, they made it work. Because that's how I felt about it too. It's like, oh my God, in what other movie can you throw in butt plugs as part of the plot, like an actual part of the plot, and it work? Like, it's so good. And so that this is not exactly my initial thought, because I've had more time to think on it and read about it. And, I guess my first thought would actually be like, holy, fill in the blank.
Right.
What a movie. Oh my God, that was amazing. And then I started to like break down every part of it that I loved, everything anything that worked for it. I mean, I don't know that there's anything that didn't work for it. Matter of fact, I think some of my initial thoughts was, this is a perfect movie. I've only seen a few perfect movies or watched a few perfect like shows or series or whatever.
We may have discussed a few of them here. I think.
Yeah.
I really want to say, did we put Inception in that list?
Probably.
I'm not sure if we did.
I would have put Inception in there.
Yeah.
But,
okay.
There's only even perfect movies have flaws, and even perfect movies and franchises have things that you may want to change or whatever. I honestly don't know what I would have changed in this movie at all. And I don't think that's a good like determining factor of perfection. Because I don't think perfection of a work has to be like flawless, because I don't know that exists. Except when I look at this movie, like I don't know if there's anything that I would have changed. I really don't, because go ahead.
I'm sorry, Cole, because there's also just so much packed into this movie.
There's so much in there.
Like, there's really, what could you change? And even that's addressed in the movie itself. And it does take multiple viewings to kind of really comprehend everything that's happening everywhere all at once. I'm just going to find ways just to, I wasn't even looking for it, but I'm just going to drop it in anytime it's there. Anyway,
do it.
Because even as you're talking about, like, what would you change? That was just like it is a concept. Yeah, it's a concept of why this woman was chosen, Evelyn, our hero, because this particular universe that she's in, she has made choices that like leading, like, this is your worst version of yourself.
And I loved that. Oh, I mean, I told you.
And you have so many. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things I loved about it too, is like, I think I was texting you during the movie, is I love how, I mean, I maybe was 10 minutes in and I was like, oh my God, I love this, because A, Michelle Yeoh, but B, like, Michelle Yeoh is a everyday, well, she's an immigrant, but she's an immigrant. She's an everyday person just trying to live life, just trying to do her job. She's handling, more than she can, take on right now, but she's got to figure it out. And she's like not a young person. She ain't old by any means, but she's not a young person, and yet she is the hero of the story. And I'm like, that's refreshing in and of itself. And I just, I loved it. I loved that. But also, she is hurt. We learn later that this Evelyn in this universe, in this story, is the worst version of herself. And that's why she is the one to do it, because she literally fails at everything that she has put her mind to thus far, but she can do anything. And she just hasn't accessed that. She hasn't tapped into that part of herself yet. And that is a concept I haven't seen yet, which I loved it.
And the fact that, and this was going back to the point about what you would change, and that's actually just her. Like, she would, because she has so many like different little variations of making a choice, something to change. That's why she has so many other options of versions of her that she can tap into. And she has to do something really dramatic in order to tap into that other obscure universe, which I'll bring Ashley in at this point, where well, not literally, but the thing that she walked away from the second viewing is, and we're just making a jump, Rakakuni, because she just will just say that just randomly at times. And now even Ken's like, what are you guys talking about? Like, it's something in a movie that you'll watch someday later, because more than likely
later in your life.
Because it's, and I forgot it was rated R until I'm like, oh right, that's right, because there's violence and language. Violence. So but I mean, violence in creative ways too, of our antagonist, who will make someone explode into confetti. So like, understanding her power is still something that boggles my mind, and I know it's been explained, but it's like too much for me. I haven't figured her out.
Yeah, I haven't figured her out too, because I understand that she sees everything all at once, but how does she? So at first I was like, okay, her power, Jobu, right?
Well done. Because
Jabaku.
I wasn't even going to attempt. So congratulations and kudos to you, because I was trying to say both words. But
I mean, I've seen it twice in 2 days too, so there we go. But anyway, Jobu Jubaku's power. My theory, I haven't read anything about it, but my theory is because she can see and kind of access all of her cells. Either she can access one of her cells that has powers to do that, or she somehow can bring like Confetti Man into this reality. I'm more inclined to believe like the first one, but I'm not sure, because that is something that I didn't quite understand, how she was able to do that. How are you able to turn things into basically whatever you see them to be? But remember when it was just, they were themselves as rocks. Joy and Evelyn were rocks on the planet with no other life. Basically after her breakdown, and she started moving, and she like turned around with the googly eyes, and then Joy's like, no, you're not supposed to do that here. You're not supposed to do that here. And then Evelyn's like, no, I can do whatever I want. So I'm wondering if you are able to just reach that, I guess, godlike status once you're able to, once your mind is strong enough to not fracture under the immense, like, crazy pressure it must be under just to access all of your universes, all of your cells at once. Maybe you reach a godlike status in that you can affect your environment around you. That's what I'm thinking. Is, I don't know if I'm on track with that or not, but
yeah, it's basically a form of like omnipotence.
Yeah.
Oh, what's the other one? Because there's the all-powerful one, and then there's one where you know everything. Although she didn't, because omnipresent is everywhere. Omniscient.
Omnipotent.
Yes. That's, I think, all-powerful. So
is it? I thought it was all-knowing too. I don't know.
It could be. Words are fun. But just going back to this character, because I'm going to butcher her name, I'm not going to say it. I'm going to say Joy instead. Just one of the, there are many, many scenes we can point out. One of my favorites is like when we were really introduced to our villain, because like villain / antagonist.
Omniscient, by the way. Omniscient.
Omniscient. Ah, there it is. Okay. Is when she's dialing into the universe she wants to do.
Yes. I loved that. It.
It's the little things like that, and I'm like,
right.
Like, and okay. As for me, I saw the movie in theaters when it came out. I'm glad I made it in time, because there was the theater experience and the chuckles that you get, especially going back to the rock scene, because I wasn't even sure when we were going to get there, but since we've already addressed it. The silence you heard in the theater, because first of all, you heard some giggles, like, what is happening?
Right.
And then
she turned into a rock, basically.
It's like, we're rocks. And then they're just kind of yelling at each other. Well, not even yelling at each other, but they're having like the realest conversation.
Yeah. Right.
Like, it was so dramatic, but also comical, but dramatic.
Kind of funny. And it's got a comical. Yeah.
And that's when I think I took myself out of the movie, but not so much that I'm like, oh, I can't with this. It's like, what's happening? Like, this what kind of movie is? What is? Yeah, I was. Yeah. Like, when that scene first came on for you, like, what were like?
Well, at first I was confused. At first I was confused because Evelyn was having a breakdown. And she was just like, oh my God, nothing matters. No, I'm gonna sign these divorce papers. I'm gonna mess up our business. I'm gonna smash the window. I'm gonna like really act out because literally none of this matters. Kind of like Jobu Jubaku was doing. She was trying to destroy it all because it doesn't matter. Like, why am I here? What are we doing?
Nihilism, I think. Nihilism.
Nihilism. Maybe that sounds right.
I think that's the word. Yeah.
But basically, I feel like she got to that point. Evelyn did, and then she was in the at the laundromat and kind of turned into a rock. And I'm like, wait, did she turn in front of all these people? Because they're not freaking out enough for me.
That's how that started, right?
But I don't know. So on the second watch, I feel like she didn't actually turn into the Rock there. It just
Right.
I think maybe
went to that consciousness to that universe. She
went to that consciousness, and then we saw that she was in that universe. Yeah, but I think in that scene she actually just fainted because I don't know. That is what I think happened. She fainted, and yeah, but it was just a visual of her going into that consciousness. And so then when I saw, I was like, damn, is that a rock? What? But it went too quickly because I'm still just like in that scene of her just losing it. And then she went, but then I'm like, wait, did she turn into a rock in front of them? They don't seem like they're flipped out about it. Maybe not. And then I was like, did I see something? And then it showed them Evelyn and Joy on the canyon as rocks. And it was just quiet and calm. And then I saw the text happen. I'm like, oh, it's them. Cool, cool. But honestly, it was a nice like break because so many crazy things had just happened. And listen, I needed the break. I needed the quiet. I needed to like regroup.
But then you're also just like, wait, what's happening right now though? Because you needed the break. You need the break. It didn't.
I needed the break. It was a sharp contrast from what I had just seen. But they didn't wait too long to tell us what was going on, and so I was like, "Oh, yeah, I get it." And but I could relate in the weirdest way. I'm like, sometimes you just want to sit and be. You don't want to be around anyone. You just want to be outside over a canyon watching a sunrise or whatever they were with sunset, maybe, and you just kind of want to be. You don't even want to be like. I don't want to say don't want to be alive, but you just want to be. You want to be in silence.
Right, you just want to
collect your thoughts, and that is the feeling that I got from that scene, and that the abruptness and it's perfect. Oh, so good.
Yes, and now that you did mention it, it's no one is what she's seeing, like what she's experiencing, because it's been happening throughout the movie where she'll like jump in from one universe to the next and no one is the wiser, like what's happening, what are you doing, like why did you just slap me? So but that's also played to effect because like I think she gets knocked, like she might be fighting Joy or Chibaku, I'm making up a name, and I think she gets like, there you go, she gets slapped or something, and then she bumps into the person that she's at the movie theater with, or the other guy next to him. And I'm like, oh wow, this is too much. But I mean, it is perfection. Yes, I can co-sign that for sure. Like, because there are just, you mentioned the butt plugs. The thing that for me that really like, again, like what is happening is when you have hot dog fingers, and I liked how they actually went back in time to explain how that happened in that universe.
Yes. Okay, I wasn't expecting that, and it was perfectly placed. The music, it was perfect. Like everything about that was amazing. Like, how did you know we needed to know how this universe in particular came to be? How did you know? So good. Also, I've been saying her name wrong. It is Jobu Tapaki, not Jobu Japaku or whatever. But whatever I was saying,
I feel like
Jobu
maybe I
Tapaki.
should write it down, because I mean, why am I writing it down? I have the Wikipedia open, which I have not looked at all, because if I did that, maybe it might make it a little easier for me to remember what her name is. I just like, oh, she's the villain, or Joy, Jobu Tapaki. Yeah, okay, it's not as difficult as I thought it would be. I just knew like, ooh, she's bad news, because when I mean, it was nearing the end. I think they were about to take out Alpha Wayland. Maybe it was after
Wayman.
That. But her hair, Wayman, her hair actually said her name, like her bangs.
Did it?
I don't know if you noticed that. Yeah.
No, I didn't notice that.
It's all in like swirly, almost like cursive, and I thought I saw it the first time, but the second time, like, yup, that's what it says.
What? Oh my gosh!
Because I mean, Jobu especially has wardrobe changes that are magnificent, fabulous. Just, I wouldn't wear it, but you make it work. So that was one of her
looks, like all of them. Now I'm
that was great.
To find that, because I knew it was like cursive in her bangs, but it didn't even it didn't even like dawn on me that it was her name. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. There's another little thing in around that scene too, but I don't remember exactly where or what it is, but it's around that too. I think it had to do with maybe her henchmen. I know that later on when they're fighting on the escalator, they're either holding scissors or pens as if they got claws. And I thought that was hilarious. I'm like, okay, I really need to pay more attention to the background details when I'm watching it for the third time.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm hoping, and I have not looked to see if it's available yet or if someone has done it, but I am hoping that maybe they make a coffee table book. Wait,
coffee table book. Yeah.
Yes, but of all of the portraits, I'm going to call them portraits of Michelle Yeoh as all the different universes when they're flipping through it.
Yes. So I tried to, I wasn't, I didn't want to like pause it because it was going that fast. I don't think I could have, but I did pay closer attention to it this time because at first it actually did a thing that I normally can't look at flashing lights. It makes me really dizzy. And so I had to kind of look away at some of those scenes. But the second time I knew it was coming and I was just like, okay, just watch as long as you can without making yourself sick. And so I was able to see a few
seizure
more.
Inducing, yes.
Yeah, I didn't need a seizure, but and I didn't. But I was able to see a few more. Now I couldn't like tell you exactly what they were. A lot of them were, some of the characters that we had already seen, like the movie star and the pizza sign holder,
chef.
And chef, So, but there were a few other ones in there. I can't remember them, but it was a few more in there that I was able to see. But I would pay good money to see Joy's looks. Okay, I would pay good money to see Evelyn. Like yes, I'm searching for pictures of Joy's outfits because she wore some of the most amazing pieces. So good. And I'm looking at the picture.
So
I'm looking at the one that does have her name spelled out. And like, I guess I saw it before, but I didn't really think much of it. But now I can see it very clearly.
that was me the first time. Like I was like, okay, there's something going crazy with her hair, but okay. Right. So the second time, like, that is her name. Yep. She would do that too. And it's the looks. Yes, the looks, the costume. I've got this in front of me. I'm gonna just go through it real quick. I have my Oscars ballot, but I'm actually using it just to see all the movies that I need to see. But Everything Everywhere All at Once has been nominated 11 times. Now, should this movie do a nice clean sweep, it can only win 10 awards, even though it's been nominated for 11, because we have 2 actresses in a supporting role, and that is Jamie Lee Curtis and Stephanie Sue. But basically Joy's character.
Joy,
yeah. So they're both nominated, and I mean, they deserve it. If they win, they are in the category with Angela Bassett. So kind of want to pull for that one instead.
I want them all to win. How do I do this?
Because Jamie Lee Curtis's role, like, I was not ready for it the first time. Because I mean, she really pulled off being this despicable woman. Well, I mean, she wasn't despicable. She was just really just agitated. But she just, I mean, we've all come across people that are like that. I feel like you work with people in your office that way. So, I mean, they're just, I don't know. And then the fact that she turns around and fights, lovely too. Just like, because I mean, that's another
arc even.
That's just another thing. Exactly. I was not expecting to see these 2 people fighting. Michelle Yeoh, she is an accomplished like martial artist, but I didn't know that Jamie Lee Curtis could bring it like that too. So
I mean, I just wasn't expecting that from her. But even just like Jamie Lee Curtis's character had a whole arc that I wasn't ready for, and then was even one of the characters in one of Evelyn's like other selves' universes. Like what? Like
Right.
what?
The hot dog fingers, which
the hot dog fingers one, which was surprisingly, their scenes were surprisingly so like devastating and definitely made me cry and laugh and like, and then the way that their scenes were placed was like, how?
And it didn't occur to me, again, this is based on the second viewing of it, that the reason why she was able to have so much strength in her feet is because in that universe, their feet are what do everything, because they have no use of their hands. It's all hot dog fingers.
No use of their hands.
So when all the people were being piled up on her and all she had was her feet, her feet were super strong, so she could just kick everybody away, as well as, you know, the universe where she learned kung fu in her pinky and just blew people away with her pinky.
Yes.
So it was. I feel like you would like come up with these crazy ideas that you want to see in a movie, but you need to have them find a way to make sense. And this movie did that.
Right. The fact that it all worked. I do not know how they did it. I truly because I saw it, but I keep thinking of like all the crazy ideas I have for things, and I'm just like, apparently I'm not going crazy enough. Number one. Number two, I also could totally make this work and with the right, you know, things in place.
Right.
This movie inspires me because it's so absurd and so ridiculous in so many places. And so, like it's a parody in a lot of places. Like even the kung fu bits are they're like super parody, and it works because it's Michelle Yeoh and she is like Mrs. Kung Fu, I feel like, or martial arts rather. But the way that they do it is so good. It just works. Like I don't understand, but it works.
Yeah, it's worth watching. Like I don't want to say as many times as you. Well, I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, because there's always going to be bits and things that you've missed. It's one of those kind of movies where the rewatchability factor is very high.
It's so high, yeah.
But yeah, let's. I mean, the acting. I need to talk about Wayland. Oh my God, what is his real name?
Waymond.
Waymond. I'm so sorry. Because even when they were saying, it's like, well, why are they saying like that? Is it Raymond? But no, it's Waymond. Okay.
Well, and my understanding of why it's Waymond instead of Raymond or Wayland or something is, when you're taking folks that are not native English speakers, and then they give their children English names, it's harder to pronounce certain things because of the dialect that they were raised in, the language that they were raised in. And so, and I learned this from reading A is for Aunties. So if I am wrong, someone please chime in and correct me. But basically, just the language barrier makes it harder for folks to say certain syllables in certain order. And so it may be a little bit harder for native Mandarin or Cantonese speakers or Korean speakers maybe to say Raymond because of how the R rolls off the tongue in English. And so Wayman comes off because it's easier. And maybe even that's what they hear. And so, like, because in A is for Aunties, the main character is Medi, like Madeline instead of Madeline. So there's like a lot of different things that are mispronounced simply because of the language barrier and translating from one language to another. When you have a non-native speaker, trying to name something in their learned language, it's a little bit more difficult. And so that is, I believe, why he is Waymond instead of Raymond.
That is fantastic insight that I did not know and makes a lot of sense. So thank you for
welcome.
That. And that wasn't even like part of like the trivia. That's just other knowledge that you acquired elsewhere to bring in like, oh, okay. Yeah. And that was great. I mean, yeah, there's just so much to love about this film. The thing that I also did not realize the first time, and we may have discussed this before, or maybe there's a list that I need to have of films that primarily take place in one day. And that's the thing that I kind of forgot. Like, oh, this is all one day. Like from the moment that they go to this office or to the IRS to have their, the receipts and or their audits or whatever, it does take place like about a week later. But for the majority of the story, it's all in one day.
Yeah, that's true.
Crazy day at that.
I know. Well, to me, that plays off of the whole multi-versal time wibbly wobbly stuff. Like, because if you're multi-versal, if you can access all the universes, excuse me, like what is time? That's not anything for you. But yeah, I agree. Crazy day.
Indeed. And just all the stuff that's been learned, all of the people that you've met, and those that are jumping into those bodies to like from other universes, like, yeah, let's go get this. Then now this kind of circles back to why butt plugs came into play. But in order to access other parts of you, you have to do those strange things that version of you wouldn't normally do. And even coming up with that concept, and I know we kind of talked about it before, but just coming up was like, oh yeah, this is how you would access. And I'm wondering who may have done that in real life now. Like, I wonder if I can tap into my other universal self. That is, if you are someone that believes in multiversal theories, but I think you also need the technology to do that. Like you need the little Bluetooth headset piece thing. Perhaps.
Yeah. Yes. So Daniel and I had a discussion which plays into his theory that you just let me know when you're ready for me to unleash that one.
I think I'm ready now, because all Ashley asked me about like during the movie is like, now, is this actually happening like to her now? I'm like, yes, all of this is happening. And then when the movie ends, in my opinion, the movie ends in one of those like universes that is like right adjacent to them. Like the one that she actually is making the decisions, where the universe where she turns into a rock, basically that one. Oh, I'm sorry. Where we see her turn into a rock. That's the universe I think that she, like the rest of the movie takes place in. It's like right next to the one, because I mean, the whole IRS building's like almost destroyed. Yeah.
So that's a good point that I didn't really catch. I think I was just, so much was going on. So there's a few things that I did miss, but I did miss, well, I noticed it, but I was like, maybe I missed the switch here. But like in my first watch, I did notice that we are still fighting in the IRS building, because essentially they went in and never came back out.
Correct.
Like she even died in that building. But then she kind of woke up, or maybe her consciousness came to in the alternate but very closely parallel universe where they have the Chinese New Year party at the laundromat. It took me a minute to realize that. So she died in the IRS because her mind couldn't handle it. She died there, and then she kind of woke up in the laundromat, or like in the house, to get ready for the party. And then she met Joy again. So it took me until like the second watch, like, oh, this is still happening in both places. Oh, okay. And so I think that's where they were jumping, because Joy is both, well, she's in all the universes, or most of them at least, but she like Evelyn and her had kind of a bit of a small showdown in their apartment before the party, and then they went down to the party, but also they were still fighting at the IRS. So it took me a second watch, and Daniel kind of pointing it out, which also feeds into his theory that I've rebuked. But oh boy, because I don't like it. I mean, it's a great theory, but I'm like, no, I don't like it. I rebuke it. But yeah, it took me a watch or two to like get that. Oh, we're splitting the story now, not just the universes, but we're like splitting the actual story into two different places. Yeah.
And that's visualized anytime you see the screen crack, because even it's another tiny little detail that I love. But there's I think it happens early in the film too, where the translation comes up with the subtitles, and even that's cracked too. So it's like,
yes, I noticed that.
but like anytime she
Great.
kind of splits and makes decisions, like, am I going to go left or right? The screen cracks, and that's when another universe, because she made a choice. Like she either did this or she did that.
I never noticed that. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
So now I think when I go back and watch it the third time, because I will watch it a third time, I think I'm going to track to see if that's where the universe split, and we see Evelyn die, because that's one universe, but we also see where she does tap into, because at some point she is everything everywhere all at once. So she knows all of her multi-universal selves, and she knows what to do, how to react to each person, and make the life better for herself, because she's seen it all. So
okay, so I caught it the first time, sort of. I don't know if I don't think I put it together that was she was creating another universe, but I did notice that the crack was significant. Like I felt that it was like her mind cracking, but not so much.
I mean, it's a little bit of that too.
Yeah, it is. But
because that's part of it, where you're not like, if you can't handle the cracking of it, then you'll be driven mad and you probably die. But she is so determined to reach her daughter that I think all of her versions, or at least most of them, that's all they want. So they're pretty much all on the same page, trying to get to what they're trying to get to.
I think even in the movie actress one universe, I think even then she's still trying to get to her daughter, because she's trying to make up with Wayman. She's trying to and I don't know that she's necessarily trying to get to her daughter in that one, or even create her daughter at that point, but I think she's trying to, number one, make amends. Like she's trying to fix it, because she knows she broke his heart, and she realizes that, yes, this decision to leave you took me to great heights and great success in my career, but I don't have you. I don't have Joy, like the daughter Joy in this universe. And so let's make amends. And so maybe even subconsciously she was trying to reach Joy, like the emotion Joy in the movie star universe. Yeah.
I mean, we also get that Wayman who tells us, like, who starts to plant the seeds, at least in Evelyn, like, hey, like,
kindness.
Kindness. Like has always been, like, he's been the constant. For those of you who have seen Lost, that's definitely something I often think of, like who is my constant? Or Desmond is my constant, or just that one person, that steady rock that you can always depend on. And in this story, that would be Waymond, because he's always there. He's always the same.
I loved how in every iteration that we saw of him, which wasn't very many. I mean, there was a secret agent Wayman, like Alpha Wayman, but then there was the two universes that were super parallel, like towards the end of the movie, Laundromat and IRS Wayman. And then there was the movie star, where she was a movie star. So we don't see a whole lot of him, but he is constant. I mean, Alpha Wayman wasn't like super our universe Wayman, but because he was more smooth. He wasn't as like geeky and nerdy and clunky as like the other universes. But he was still him. But I agree. He was very much the constant, and he didn't change all that much. Not in a bad way, but he has a core characteristic, and he kind of sticks to that with every version of himself, which is really awesome.
Absolutely. So I'm actually really on edge now of what this theory is that Daniel came up with.
So
since we kind of came up with one on the spot, or our own theory.
Yeah. What was our theory again?
That basically, like, whenever the screen actually cracks, like as we're watching it, that's her kind of making a choice in a new universe.
Splitting. Yep.
Right.
So his theory is that none of it happened, and it is the very long, drawn out fever dream of a person in the middle of a psychotic break. And it never happened.
Boo, boo.
Right?
I reject
Right?
this theory.
I reject it and I hate it. Like, I love it, but I said I reject it, I rebuke it. But also he makes really good points. And so I can't unsee it. I can't unthink it. Now I reject it because I believe that in this universe, in this movie, the movie universe, that this is real, that this is what's actually happening to her. But his points are that, like, so we talked about the Bluetooth devices being means to access the universes or access to verse jump.
Right.
He says that, so you're telling me that all these people have these specific Bluetooths ready and they know what to do with them. I said no, that he happened to have those specific Bluetooths. They don't have to be those because they had like an older version of a Bluetooth. And now I'm gonna have to rewatch another time so I can see what everyone else used. Because if they're the same, he may have a point on me, and I can't let that happen because I don't like the theory. But I said I think they use those specific Bluetooths because they had them on hand. You know, I think. I mean, I'm using a Bluetooth as we speak right now. If someone was trying to verse jump, they could probably get me because I'm using a Bluetooth device. And so I think I'm tapped in. And so I think the method is through a Bluetooth device, not necessarily those Bluetooth devices. And he's like, so who gave her the device? I said, well, it happens in our universe because she's the protagonist of the story. She's got the spotlight. And he was
Wayman
like, well, who created it? Well, and that's what I said. So Wayman gave it to her, but that's because Alpha Wayman, who learned it from her, like Alpha Evelyn, who's now dead, but Alpha Wayman learned it from her. She created this ability to access the other cells. And so he gave it to her, but he probably had it on him because, I mean, if you look at his outfit, he is very dated. You know, he's not exactly a modern dresser. He's just wearing clean clothes, you know? And so it would make sense that he would have a more dated piece of technology that's not super important to him to stay on top of things. He also mentioned, so I mean, that was one thing, and I said, nah, I rebuke it, I reject that. This is easily refutable. And he was like, so you're telling me that everybody else happens to have a Bluetooth device? I was like, yes, it's 2023, made in 2022. Everyone has a lot of people have Bluetooth devices. That's not uncommon. Another thing he says is, what did he say? I hate to go. I'll go get him. But he said something about it's all happening. It's something about it all revolves around her and and I'm like, but yeah, she is the one that they sought out. She's the one that they feel is the one to reach, or they want her to defeat Jobu Tsukaki, but she decides to become like her and do it. And he's like, no, well, what's happening? You have a person who is under a tremendous amount of stress. I mean, major stress. Your daughter is acting out, and you got the IRS on you. Your business is failing. You've got a lot going on now. She's got the divorce impending. And so he's like, she's just under a tremendous amount of stress, and this is her way of dealing with it. Oh, that's what it was. He was saying that she's always like distracted, and even in the end, she's like hearing voices and things. And I'm like, yeah, because now she's able to access all of the universes. She is omnipresent. She's everywhere all at once, literally, and she's hearing that. She's kind of tapping into that. And he was like, yeah, it's easy to explain that when you're having a psychotic break and you're hearing voices. And I said, no, I don't like it.
I don't agree at all. Like, I'm not even I'm following not even a little bit, because everything is explained to me in the film. Like, there is no reason for me to think that she is like, yeah, she does have a psychotic break, but not from all the stress that's happening. It's because of all the universes. She can't control all of them at the time. Like, she doesn't know how to. Like, everything is still very new to her. As for where the devices came from, that's when Wayland, or rather Alpha, jumped into Wayman. I think when he probably must have had a Bluetooth, and then he ran into the room.
Yeah.
Like there's a shot where we're watching the monitors of him
Yes.
jumping around and everything.
Yep.
And he goes into the room, and I had always wondered, I was like, what did he go in there to get? And I think he probably got another Bluetooth.
Oh, okay. That's
So
a
he
good
might have
point.
already had he might have had it programmed, and he went and programmed the phone because he was waiting for that to do what it needed to do. So then he could actually program and get Evelyn on board, even though she had no idea what was happening.
Right.
Because a lot happens in those few minutes. Like the rules of the movie are explained to you in those
clearly
few fast minutes.
Then they break down, or they give you more later, but they like the basics of it, and the basics of to Evelyn are given just like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he says that it's a psychotic break and it's all happening in her head, and I'm like, no. And so I was like, okay, so when you first said this is a sci-fi movie, you have to suspend some disbelief here. It's like, yeah, I know. And I'm like, okay, The Matrix. If you were Neo and you took a freaking, what did he take? The red pill? I don't remember. I think it's the red pill. And he took the red pill, yep. He touched the mirror and he like morphed into the mirror. And then he was like in a whole different world. Did you try to explain? Was that a fever dream too? He's like, no, I just took that at face value. And I'm like, why can't you take this movie at face value? It's about multi-dimensional, universe.
Multi-versal. Multi-versal.
Multi-versal. Why can't you just take this at face value? He's like, yeah, I guess. But he doesn't. He thinks it's, yeah.
Well, you can tell him that I disagree. In fact, he is wrong. And I think this is the only time so far that I've ever had like an actual disagreement with him. And I've never met him in person. But, yes, I did. We talked on the phone once.
Yeah.
But anyway, you can let him know. Like, you're wrong on this one. Like, you're a good guy. I love you. You're great.
But you're wrong.
I'm
it's
so
okay
sorry.
to be wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it's all there. It's in the movie. Why are you making it harder for yourself? Just accept the fact that she is jumping from universe. Like, just accept it. And the theory is not even there's actually a name for the theory that he's calling it, because it shows up all the time on the podcast. How did this get made? And there are times when movies get so absurd that either one of the hosts named Jason or somebody else in the audience will just kind of posit the idea that this is a Jacob's Ladder theory. I can't fully co-sign this because I haven't seen the movie Jacob's Ladder, but it's basically the same concept of all of this insanity is happening, and then you wake up to find out that the character who's having all these crazy things happen wake up to find that it's a dream.
All a dream. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that is known as the Jacob's Ladder theory because it's based on that movie. And that is basically what Daniel is suggesting that is happening here, which I strongly deny. And I think 98% of the rest of the population who has seen the film will probably agree that he is wrong. So
he's wrong. I'm the wife, and I'm like, nah, you're wrong. And it's okay to be wrong. You can sit in your wrongness, but you're still wrong.
So, I mean, because I feel like we came to the answer as to why they were able to return to the IRS like room or office, and nothing is all destroyed and damaged because her main consciousness, even though she is now conscious in every universe she knows of all of her universal beings, she just hopped into the next one over, like the one that it's very similar. Like they made just a couple different choices, so that's why everything can continue. And, life goes on. So that is how it ends and why. Because, I mean, for me, even when I last saw it, I'm like, how is this possible? Like, I hadn't quite put all of that together until talking about it now. So that's how that works.
And I'm glad we're talking about it, because that had bothered me too. And like I said, the first time I noticed it, I was like, wait, did I miss something? Because I was like, it's very possible I probably missed something. But no, I think I missed that she is everywhere all at once.
It's crazy because I feel like my mind is exploding as like it's all making much more sense now. Because I feel like now, even now, going back to see when that crack happened, and then later on when she's actually experiencing all of her consciousness at the same time, which means that she has all the memories of everybody else to know, like, okay, this is what happened. This is what they did. I will do this differently. And then, take it from there. So It all makes sense. It's perfect sense. Not a psychotic break. Like, yes, she's had some psychotic breaks, but not the kind that you're thinking of, Daniel. No.
Right. It's okay. He's wrong.
I know. I'm sitting here pointing my finger at like nobody, but like, yes, because I mean it with conviction. So, gotta do what you gotta do and get it out. But with all of that said, I think you had theory, and we're going to jump into an entirely different movie now. We're going to talk about Tenant for a few minutes.
Okay, let's do it. I've also seen that one.
You have, which
Twice
I'm very
now.
happy. And I think I've seen it twice, but I mean, we'll go with it and we'll get through it. But like, you first texted me and you said you were confused and you're also upset. I forgot how you worded it. I have to probably go to my phone because I don't want to like put words in your mouth because it's like
I said both.
I'm an angry girl or something. I don't know.
I was mad. Yeah.
I don't know. I was amused. I'm like, what happened? Why? It's first of all, you and I, we subscribe to the Book of Nolan.
Yes, vehemently. Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking forward very much to Oppenheimer coming out later this year.
I am too, actually.
I mean, not just because Nolan, but hey, that's always been an interesting story. The only Nolan film so far that I'm not all that like meh about. I've watched it, and it's Dunkirk. And that's about like the whole World War II naval thing.
So I probably won't see that one.
Yeah, it's not terrible, but it's
Is it sci-fi like at all, or is it just like a historical?
Not it's just historical, and
I'll keep that.
I'm like, man,
not interested.
I've seen Insomnia. The only one I haven't seen is Following. I think that's his first feature film. But I haven't seen that one. That's like
I haven't seen 90. Memento yet. I want to see it though.
Ooh, oh, sorry.
I almost watched it like yesterday, but I said no, I can't handle 3 mind-bending movies in a day. Like 2, okay, but that wasn't reaching my breaking point because I watched them like back to back, and I said I was gonna maybe watch Memento or Don't Worry, Darling, because I still want to see that. But I said, nah, I don't want to. I need something a little bit lighter so that my brain doesn't break today.
Right. Memento is, I feel like, the movie that later becomes Tenant.
That's what I feel like it is too, because I know it has like wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff too. I think
but it's more grounded.
That's what I thought. Like, I feel like it is a good. From what I understand about the movie, like I've never seen it, but from what I understand about it, it is not as complicated as Tenet is.
It isn't, but it's still very much like, this is a very interesting way to tell a movie or tell a story. And I mean, I'm looking to like one day, if I do follow the path of eventually becoming a filmmaker, like, and telling a story in a way that it jumps in different parts of time. And I liked the way that he used different cinematic choices to tell us where we were in time. But you probably would only know that after you watch it like the first time. So you have to watch it again and then like, oh, okay, this is okay, gotcha. So, but we're talking about Tenet, not Memento.
Yes.
So I'm trying to figure out exactly where to begin, which is an interesting way to even talk about this movie because it begins at the end, or rather ends at the beginning.
How do we start? What's the beginning of the protagonist, which is the main character? He doesn't have a name.
Right. That's right. He doesn't have a name.
That's the beginning of the protagonist story. I think. And no, it's not actually. Because we do learn that, well, and I missed I missed even more things in Tenet the first time than I did like with Everything Everywhere. Everything Everywhere was a lot easier to follow. But like with Tenet, there's just so much going on, and I still kind of don't understand the time manipulation mechanics and how, because I also found like some plot holes with it, And I'm like, but is it a plot hole or do I just not understand? I'm like, and then Daniel's like, no, it's a plot hole because he hated Tenant.
Well, let's do that then. Let's just jump into why he hated it,
So he
and
was
then
very
we'll kind
much.
of unpack it from there.
So he hated the way that they did the time manipulation because he says even in sci-fi, it's really hard to, I guess, suspend the disbelief because the way that they did it is so unrealistic. He says it's even lazy. I said, what did you just say? You're talking about a Chris Nolan film. This is probably one of the more complicated. He's like, well, it's an interesting story and like it's a creative story, but the way that they use the time, like inverted, what's it called? Inverted.
It's too far in my memory banks to know exactly.
I know. What's entropy, inverted entropy. He says that's a lazy way to that's a lazy like device to use because inverted entropy is not a thing, but to use it in the way that they did it, I'll have to get him to say it because I don't even know how they used it in the movie.
But with that whole concept there, then a movie like Inception wouldn't be good either to him. Does he not like Inception?
No, he loves Inception. But I guess it's because the way that he didn't like the way that they like only affected like certain things. Like you can invert cars, you can invert people in things, but he didn't like the way that you can then take that inverted object and place it in the real world that is continuously moving forward. He did not like that concept. He was not able to see beyond the, hey, this is just a movie. Hey, this is,
so he wasn't able to turn that part of his.
Yeah, he says it was not done. It could have been done better. It could have been displayed a little bit better. He didn't say how, but he was not happy with that.
That's what I would like to know, because what I also appreciated about Tenant is like it's one of those films, and Ashley and I were talking about this with a different film, that it's not a film that will kind of hold your hand and spoon feed you.
No, God, no.
It will,
oh my gosh.
And
push you down the stairs and hope you land. Which I kind of appreciate, but
I do for the most part, because I don't necessarily need to like have my hand held as like, oh, okay, that's what's happening over here. Okay, don't explain everything to me. And they explain just enough for me to understand at least the plot. And the plot was they had to stop this guy from doing this thing that would end all of time, and it would be very, very bad. Like it's worse than death. So we have to stop him. That's the mission. Gotcha. And this is how we're going to go about doing it. Because time is inverted, we have to also invert ourselves to stop this thing. And then, it goes off from there. And then just strap in and try to your best to keep up. So
he was looking at it as a major paradox as well. And he likes paradoxes and he likes time travel and he likes time manipulation. But he says in this movie, like, okay, we find out that Tenant was created by the protagonist, which I didn't catch in the movie even on the second time. I'm like, where did we find this out? Who said it? Because I don't know.
That was at the end, I think.
Well, we know that the protagonist recruited Neil, like James Pattinson's character, but that doesn't mean he created Tenant. So I'm confused on that. But then it kind of
Robert Pattinson. Sorry.
Huh? Robert.
So Robert Pattinson.
What did I say?
You said James Pattinson.
Did I really?
I'm like, James.
No. Sorry, not the author. The vampire. He'll never play.
Yes, the sparkly vampire with the big hair.
The sparkly. Yeah. Anywho, he. So wait, what was I saying? But all Neil said was, "You recruited me," but I guess I just missed it. I don't know. I probably missed that. I don't know. But
it's a wordy movie too. So
it's very wordy. So many big words. But Daniel was saying that he didn't like it opens up a whole paradox of, okay, so like when the protagonist was fighting himself, we found out that he was fighting himself in the Freeport scenes. He was fighting a masked man, and like the other person was inverted, and our guy was right side, and like, but it begs the question, if everything that has happened has already happened, like where does it begin? How do we continue to move forward in space when allegedly all this has already happened? Like it opens up way too many paradoxes that you can't explain away with the movie's logic, with the logic that the movie was trying to explain away the thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and I think he was saying that, it's a creative way, but if you really look into it deeper, which the movie is not expecting you to do, because it is so convoluted and it is so confusing, then he's like, yeah, they'll just expect you to take it at face value and not like actually think about the possibility of it. And I was like, well, it's a movie. Do we really want to? And he's like, well, that's just the way his brain works. He just, he kind of sees past all that and is like, okay, this is lazy. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. Even in movie land, it does not work. And I'm like, okay.
I'm not saying he's right or wrong in this case, but I feel like what he is describing here is like there are like some like effects of doing something like this, going back in time, and there are some the paradox isn't what I'm looking for, but like the point I'm trying to get to is the reason for the Sarkavia Accords. I'm going to Avengers, by the way. But the reason why the Accords exist is because the Avengers go places, blow up buildings, there's mass casualties everywhere. And I'm thinking that the team that the protagonist has put together to do what they're doing with Tenant, there are also casualties, there's issues, there's problems. And that is the remnants of what's left behind. What happens with that? Who fixes that? That is like an issue that's something that I see that could be a problem, but it's not our problem. We just had to fix the problem of what's his face setting off whatever bomb thing he was going to do. As long as we fix that, let somebody else worry about that. We'll have the cleanup crew who has another time machine thingy that fixes all that, and bloop, we're all good now.
I like the way you put that. That makes a lot of sense to me. That like, there's a lot of other questions I have about this movie. A lot of things I may never know because it's just so wibbly wobbly. I will say I did find a plot hole though. And after talking with Daniel, he's like, yeah, this is the problem with this type of plot device is you make holes, and then it's like, okay, so people like me who see this stuff, how can I suspend disbelief when the plot hole is just staring at my face like that, And I'm like, if I caught that, then you might be onto something here, buddy.
What was the plot hole that you found?
So in the highway scene where Kat, is that her name? The lady, the really, really tall lady. I guess the only lady in the film.
True. Yep.
So she was stolen, or she was kidnapped or whatever. And so it was the highway heist, I'll call it, where the protagonist in the fire truck went in and stole the orange case or whatever, and that was one of the pieces of the algorithm. And so he basically saw Kat and what's his name, the villain, and he had to save her. He had to save Kat because the villain had basically kind of hit her, knocked her out or whatever, and then left the car running backwards. Protagonist had to go save her. So he saves her, of course. Then they make it into some facility. I don't know, where the inversion machine, timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly TARDIS was. So they go in.
Oh, the TARDIS.
It's the TARDIS. And so he talks to the villain, where the villain is inverted, and somehow they're talking to each other, and I don't understand that. But it happened, and then he goes into the TARDIS and he becomes inverted and basically does the whole scene again in his inverted. We found out that he was working in tandem essentially with himself, but this time he's inverted. And so I did like the info dump that we got a little bit more info about what it's like to be inverted and why they have to like wear the masks and the oxygen masks and things. But anyway, so while he's in his inverted state, the protagonist, he's driving the car and he's just trying to get oriented, and he does the switcheroo with the algorithm thingamabob, and he goes to find Kat. Well, it hit me when he was not inverted, like before he went into the TARDIS and became inverted, that the car that was holding her, moving backwards, driving fast backwards towards some barrier or something, when they jumped out, it's like, wait a second, they can't jump out of this car, because who would have driven the car in the first place? Like, they can jump out, since we are now moving forward in time with the protagonist and just the way the movie's moving. They said they're moving inverted, like they're inverted, and they've already done this or whatever. How did they jump out of the car? Because when you go back to the inverted side through the TARDIS, he goes and finds her, I guess. They would have had to been driving the car. There was no way that they could have also jumped out of the car, because now they're changing history. They're changing stuff. Does that make any sense?
I just know that I definitely need to watch it again, because I feel like I'm not trying to disprove it. I just need to kind of see it for myself again to be like, oh, okay, this was answered in this little bit.
And it might have been answered, but I truly doubt it was.
I do remember the car also being like driven by itself. I do remember that part of it.
Yes, but it was inverted. So when going back to the beginning of the highway heist, or the rescue highway heist, I don't know, like they were in there. There was somebody driving the car, and then Kat was in the back, and then the villain was in the back, and he was talking about shooting her. She was knocked out at that time, but they were driving. It was inverted, but they were driving, which means they would have had to drive it at some point forward, right? They weren't driving it backwards. They were driving it while inverted, which means they were going straight, driving straight in their time. And anyway, I think it's a whole, I think it's a plot hole. I cannot prove that because I don't have the clip in front of me. And then a bunch of stuff happens before and after, but I'm pretty sure that's a plot hole.
And then regardless, with all of the stuff that's happening, it's just cool to watch.
It is. It's a very cool movie, and it loses me so many times. And then I find it, I'm like, okay, I know what's going on. How did he? I'm lost again. But I'm okay with that too. Like, I mean, it still makes me a little mad because there's just so much. Because there's so much I don't understand. Like, again, I'm not 100% certain about the inversion and how that works in this movie, because in my brain it does not work. And so but yes, it is a very cool movie. It's visually very pleasing. The fight scenes are insane. I love that.
I mean, and I think for me, I get caught up in the things like that rather than trying to find logic in the timey-wimey stuff, because it is wibbly wobbly and like, oh, it doesn't make sense. Yeah. And I am his key demographic. I am not invest that much time within the plot holes. Like, it didn't make sense. That's fine. Just keep doing the weird thing that you were doing there. Yes, more of that. Yeah. Okay.
More of that, please. Thanks, sir.
And then there's people like Daniel who's like, no, wait, I'm not on board. That didn't make sense. Yeah. That happened. No. None of this. Get it out. Oh, I'm leaving.
It can't happen. Get out of here.
So this movie's not for him. But
no,
it does.
He said it was a good movie. He just,
You said he hated it.
Tearing it apart. Well, he didn't hate it because I was like, oh my God, you hate this. He's like, I didn't hate it. It was all right. But yeah, he's not going to be watching that one again, probably.
Okay. All right. Well, either way, it's a movie that I definitely, because I've seen it as I'm scrolling. I'm like, oh, I gotta watch that again. And then when you talked about that, you saw it. I'm like, oh, now I definitely need to watch it again. But I just didn't get to it
Couldn't.
because then
Yeah,
I could.
fine.
Yeah, so it's definitely one to chew on for sure because it's
Yes.
got a lot of
Yes.
stuff in there. Even if you chew on it and find out like, oh, there's nothing here, it's just gum. I don't know, but
But
it's
that's
got
fun. I like
flavor
a movie
crystal.
that, yeah, I like flavor crystals. I love a movie that gives you substance and doesn't just go away. Like it sticks with you after you watch it. That is my kind of content. I mean, I love something that makes you look deeper than the surface and like makes you think about life and just I love that. I love that. And so
Which
both
is
of these
which is
movies did
why
that for me.
Matrix is something we come back to so
Oh
often.
yeah, Tom and I mean that's just a classic, you know.
Mm-hmm. It's a classic perfection. So
Yeah,
you've got
it is
that.
perfection. Mm-hmm.
Inception has something you really get to chew on and just remember all the things that
Mm-hmm.
happened. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and granted, I don't think I would put Tenet in that category, but because I just love Christopher Nolan's work, it's definitely
Yeah,
in the wheelhouse. Like it's connected to
absolutely.
it.
Yeah,
So
it's not a perfect movie to me, but again, I've missed about 50 to 60% of it. But I love a mind bender. I love that. So
for the
yeah.
most part, Nolan is like one of those like he is he's basically like a main event. Like he is the event maker. Like, oh, he's come out with a movie. I
Mm,
mean, even when they promoted this
hmm.
movie, it was a big deal. All they showed were just the bullet holes that were like disappearing from the glass.
I didn't
And
even
like,
see
oh my
that.
God.
When I
It
tell
was
you
a teaser trailer. It was
I don't remember
insane.
seeing trailers. I knew it was something about time, but only because I had heard other people talk about it. I don't remember seeing any trailers, any teasers, literally nothing. So that's one of the reasons I was real apprehensive because I didn't have any like investment other than Chris Nolan film. Um, but then COVID happened and
Yeah, that was a
I just
that
didn't
that
see it
did
till yesterday.
hurt. Right. I mean,
Yeah,
it did definitely hurt the film, because he insisted on putting it in theaters, which makes sense because I really can't remember. I think I did see
I
it in
get
theaters.
it.
Like it was, and I might have been absolutely by myself, but that's fine. And that's also probably why I was like, oh yes, I did see it at least twice because I think I saw it in theaters and I saw it again when it came on HBO Max, but that
Hmm.
was like a couple months ago, and I'm kind of working on the memory of the most impactful scenes to me that I can remember and trying to retell the story. I'm like, oh wait, there was a plot. And but one of the other things, even before the movie came out, was like this is Nolan's closest film that we'll get to seeing him do Bond or secret agent kind of character.
Yeah. I definitely, yeah. And I
And you
loved the character. I really liked the protagonist.
yes. Yeah, I
I
mean
was impressed.
everything that was happening and really that all that Bond type stuff really comes out when you
Yeah.
see him like fighting like actual people in real time or changing wardrobes or meeting all secretly
Yeah.
like and rescuing the women or the one woman that was there. But yeah, so
Yeah.
it's that, but also the time trippiness, and then that is what kind of throws some people off. So I get it.
Hmm.
I get it. So
I
I
enjoyed
just
it
want to put some
overall
good
though.
words in. Oh, so
Yeah.
did I. So did I. Like I mean, it's Nolan. It's Christopher Nolan. You know you're going to get something that you will end up talking about later, and
Hmm.
I feel like that's for all of his films. So that's why I'm really looking forward to Oppenheimer because not only is it historical, but it
Hmm.
looks like there's something else going on. And in fact, someone said I'll have to find it, but someone has said that even Oppenheimer might have a connection to Tenet. So I'm like,
I get that impression, especially because they mentioned that the scientists who I guess created this thing, or figured out the time inversion, or she figured out something very important to Tenant, or the device or something.
mhm.
She killed herself because she did not want to be forced to recreate another.
Mm,
And I feel like because Oppenheimer, wasn't it Oppenheimer who created the atom bomb?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So he didn't, I don't believe he killed himself, but
No, I didn't.
he saw like how incredibly deadly his invention could be turned and could be weaponized and used against people. And so he was starting to have regrets about making it. It was either making it or making it available or teaching others about it or something. And so I think that's what made the connection for me is, we got two doomsday machines. We got another, I don't know.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's actually a handful of things coming out. Next thing, well, hopefully we'll get to see Avatar soon. And I say that with like, what? How are you feeling about it?
No, when you say that with like such disdain, like I guess I have to. Like I have to see this. Yeah.
It's because of how I felt about the first one. Like
okay.
It's an experience film. Like it's a film to see in theaters, definitely. And I'm talking about the first one. Then I saw it again at home, a much smaller scale. The little firefly bugs things weren't flying in my face. And I'm like, I lost the whole effect of what you had in the theater. And I'm like, this doesn't track, it's not the same. So
okay.
once the blinders were in, the scales had fallen, I'm like, this movie's boring. And yeah, I said it.
What? Oh man.
Okay, so maybe it was a little harsh. It's not boring because I did start to rewatch it the other day, but I'm like, it's 5:30. I need to go to work. So I didn't have time to sit there and actually watch the movie. But ultimately, I'm like, meh about the movie because I didn't have the same full effect of being in the dream world of Pandora. So that's why I'm like, okay, I'll watch it. Like I've got coworkers that are like, we're not going to talk to you until you watch it. So I'm like, okay. So there's that. It's been nominated for like 7 or 8 I almost said Grammys. Wow. Oscars. So I will watch it so I can continue on and watch some of the other things. You got the new Ant-Man coming, Oppenheimer, Mario Brothers. There's a bunch of stuff that I want to see. So
yeah,
I just need to get Avatar out of the way.
Go see Avatar. I enjoyed it, but I also liked the first one. And
I'm sorry. So I hurt you a little bit when I was like,
no, because I get it. Like I get it. I get why you and others might not appreciate it, and it does have some problematic themes. And I get it, but I liked it. So now I'm not gonna sit and digest it or like break it down. I'm not gonna there's not like deeper meaning, so you're not gonna get that, but it's visually appealing.
Right. I think for me that's what it was. It was visually appealing, but the story, I was like, I've seen Ferngully before. Like I'm good.
Ferngully, not that.
Or Pocahontas. I know it's been compared to numerous. Basically, the story wasn't original for me, so
it's not original. No. Now, I think the only original thing is that it's happening so far in the future and on a whole different planet, and like the use of avatars is kind of fresh in this usage of it. So, like, it has some original things, but the story itself, no.
It's just me being more harsh than I need to be.
The white man getting
the white man,
the savage colored people. That's yes.
Yeah, that there.
That's
the
that problematic part. Yeah.
But for me, that wasn't my issue. I mean, it's like, yeah, sure, that happened, but like, I was just like, I've seen this. That was my whole thing. And then, but also just the I want to call it the disillusion, but seeing it on a smaller screen and just not having the same magic there anymore.
Yeah.
That's where I kind of like fell off.
Yeah.
So unless I can watch it again in 3D, I don't want to do it.
Yeah. Well, I believe I watched this second installment in 3D, if I remember correctly, and it was good, and I watched it in the theater. So yeah, it's definitely one of those what did you call it? It's all about the experience, and it really does make the difference seeing it in the theater versus at home, you know?
Right. And we discussed this before, talking about the movie Gravity, because it doesn't hit the same.
Which I'll never watch it again. But yes, it does not hit the same. Never watch that one, you know.
So that's the plan anyway. So I'll follow up either on here or definitely tell you if I do see it. But yeah, that's what's happening.
If you see
We're not going to do recommendations because we only talked about 2 movies. In fact, it's just not a regular episode. So are you still on hiatus, still missing? Or not missing, you're not missing, just off the grid. Are you still off the grid?
I'm pretty much still off the grid, yeah. And it's going to be indefinite. So if you need me, go to Sterling. He's my bodyguard.
Right. I will. Like bodyguard, publicist, the gatekeeper. We'll just say that.
Yeah, my gatekeeper. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like, because then I get to say no just to people. Like, can you get me in contact with? No, I can't. It's like you can't. Or you don't want. I don't want to. So
does this mean I've arrived?
I think you've arrived, and I have power over who can like talk to you or gain access to you, and I could use this power against you. I'm not going to, but like I'm saying, like Tessa Thompson might call and be like, "Nope, she's not available," and
you would never. You'd be fired.
Well, you can't fire me. I quit.
I can fire you. Whatever.
Anyway, you can find me at all things at indoob. Thanks so much for entertaining us and letting us entertain you and hear our thoughts on these 2 mind-bendy movies that hopefully you're also chewing on and hopefully you've seen, because if you haven't seen it, we just sat here and just talked about all pieces.
It all for you. Mm-hmm.
But then again, there are some people who don't care, who just will watch it anyway. So
that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't cover half of it for either movie. And
I thought we did with Everything Everywhere All at Once. We
covered a lot of it, but there's a lot of things we didn't talk about. There's and us talking about it is one thing, but to experience it yourself, nothing like it.
Right.
Nothing like it.
I agree. But either way, that does it for this episode. Also let us know, like, if you like these kind of episodes, we'll do more of them, and if you don't, then we'll just put them on Patreon, but we're still going to do them because there are movies that we need to talk about, and especially when Kortney watches them, because your list is a little shorter now, at least. So there you go. I'm so happy for you though. No, really, I got so excited when you first told me. It's like, I am watching this movie, and I'm like, oh, like I probably could have dropped my phone. I was so excited. And then to follow up with Tenant, I'm like,
I know.
Yes.
Well,
I pushed my luck. I tried to get you to watch RR today, but
no, yeah. I watched some trash TV instead, and it was great. It was what I needed for today. Some trash TV to cleanse the palate.
Well, if you have another snow day tomorrow, then
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you so much for stopping by and pressing play. I've been your benevolent host, T. Sterling Watson. And remember, the world didn't suck. We'd all fall off henceforth and forevermore.
Amen.
Thank you so much for listening to the Indoob podcast. To get more Indoob in your life, check out indoob.com, patreon.com/indoob, and of course, merch over at TeePublic. Email us your Ask Indoob questions, comments, or just say hi at indoobpod@gmail.com. Linky dinks in the descripts. Please rate, comment, follow, subscribe, and hashtag tell your friends. Until next time.